Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Michael Hunter and Zhang Zhilei will return this weekend on the Triller app, fighting on the undercard of Teofimo Lopez vs George Kambosos. So we'll get to the respective fights. So Hunter, he is fighting Mike Wilson. You have Zhang Zhilei, he is fighting Daniel Martz. Although at the time of recording, for whatever reason, these fights are not listed on BoxRec, but make of that what you will. So a couple of things to cover off here. Some interesting stuff with Zhang Zhilei, because obviously him appearing on this app out of nowhere, having been signed to Matchroom, raised a lot of questions, and he has answered some of those in a recent interview, but more on that later in the video. We'll start with Michael Hunter, and I don't want to dwell too much on his recent sort of movements to Triller. He walked away from an IBF final eliminator against Filip Hrgović to take this fight with Mike Wilson, which is now a WBA eliminator. So, he's, made peace with the decision, and it was a business decision, getting more money for a multiple fight deal as opposed to what he was going to get for that Hrgović fight, which was about $360,000 US. So, of this fight, what am I expecting? Well, not a whole lot, but it could end up being one of these sort of lose-lose situations for Hunter, because he is regarded as a good contender in the heavyweight division. Someone who is maybe just inside or just outside of the top 10 there or thereabouts. He has done some good work at heavyweight. Obviously, the win against Martin Bakole, Sergey Kuzmin, the draw with Alexander Povetkin, but it has been a little bit lean since then. He was dropped by Matchroom in 2020, ended up having a bit of a tune-up at the end of 2020 versus Sean Lockery. Didn't look overly impressive in that one. I mean, understandable though, he'd been out for a year, he looked a bit rusty, and now we're 6 months on. So it could be a situation that he could go in here against Mike Wilson, get the win and not really be that troubled, but still not sparkle, maybe not impress as some people would like. And I'm sure if he doesn't sort of put in the performance that people are expecting, the knives will be out. And despite this having a WBA eliminator sort of status on the line, who knows what that really means, and, which of the myriad of WBA belts it could actually, go for. Because once you enter the WBA rankings, and in terms of going for different titles, because they have the gold title, the interim title, the regular title, there is the super champion as well. Then you've got other people floating around like Mahmoud Chow with champion in recess. It's like entering this vortex that you never can really escape from. And even though some people will say, well, it's clear this is the path he's going down, the WBA route is never clear, because you just don't know what's going to happen. It never pans out the way that people think. People will, go, this is the path we're looking to. 6 months, a year down the line, it's ended up being morphing into something completely different. But, he's sort of made his bones to go this route, take this fight, and whatever happens here happens. But, he will strengthen his position within the WBA with a win. Where that takes him, anyone's guess. But, Wilson, he's been out of the ring for a couple of years, hasn't had a win, really shouldn't be ranked at all. We got a, phantom ranking by the WBA for this fight, which, beggars belief, but it is what it is. So Hunter, to win this one, and for his sake, he needs to get a stoppage here and look good. If he labors to any real extent, people will be talking and won't be impressed. Okay, so we'll get on to the Zhang Zhilei versus Daniel Martz fight. A few interesting things I want to get into before sort of talking about how I think that one pans out, because I think we know the way it will go. Zhang was actually on an interview with Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat about a week or so ago before I recorded this video. Some interesting things about how this fight came to be, but also reflecting on his last fight against Jerry Forrest. So we'll touch on both of those things. In terms of his link up with Triller and what's happening with Matchroom, because a year or so ago, he was announced to be fighting with Matchroom, a bit of a splash made, all that sort of thing. So when this Triller fight was announced, it was very curious. People didn't know what to really make of it, what was really going on with Matchroom, because initially it sort of appeared, well, has he left Matchroom? Has his deal run out? Was it not reviewed? No real answers were sort of forthcoming, but he's cleared that up, saying that Triller actually approached Matchroom and said, can we have this guy fight on our card? And Matchroom said yes. And you can see here on screen, so this is the promo. So he doesn't actually feature on the promo card, but he is on the card versus Daniel Martz. But he said he's still with Matchroom. He's still expecting, to continue to fight with Matchroom. Talking them up, very glowing of Matchroom, best promoter in the world, yada, 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 all that sort of stuff. So he is definitely still part of the Matchroom fold, according to him. But interesting that Triller approached Matchroom and they said yes. I mean, this sort of cross-promotional help, I guess, this is not a bad thing. I think I'd like to see a little bit more of this, especially if it means that fighters will be more active, because too often they sit for too long. They don't sort of get in the ring, get enough action, because sometimes either there's not enough cards or things just don't work out with broadcast dates and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and perhaps Triller here, the thinking behind getting Zhang Zhilei on the card, appeal to the Asian market, although I haven't really seen too much promotion of his fight. And I couldn't even find a promo graphic of him and Daniel Martz. So I'm not sure how much effort they've put into promoting that he's being on the card, but he is on the card. Of that fight with Jerry Forrest, so he's explained his sort of wilting performance against Forrest, where he started strong, got knockdowns in each of the first 3 rounds, and then faded badly. Ultimately got a draw with Forrest, maybe lucky to do so. That was a 10-round fight, but he had to spend some time in hospital afterwards, basically saying it was the humidity down in Florida that got him, that he wasn't drinking enough water throughout the week, and effectively he was losing weight in the week, and that led to him basically being dehydrated and fading badly in that fight. So he said, I just didn't drink enough water, on the day, in the week leading up to the fight. So, yeah, I mean, make of that what you will. He has said that he doesn't believe that a rematch with Jerry Forrest is required, that they've had that fight. He's not interested in having a rematch. So, yeah, I mean, I think actually that would be, given what happened, if he truly did actually suffer some symptoms from dehydration, from not drinking enough water, run it back. Finish Forrest off. Put in a performance where you can kind of, draw a line under it, because I think people, given what happened, we're questioning Zhang, as a bit of an older fighter now, 38 years old, have his legs gone as well. He probably is actually past prime at this point. Still a good fighter, still dangerous with that left hand. He's got good size, good skills, but we have seen him in a few fights where he's, the gas tank has been a little bit of a question, and obviously in that Forrest fight, a major question. But for this one with Daniel Martz, is a guy who's 6'7", 6'7.5", the tallest fighter that Zhang says he's ever faced. So that will present a few different sort of challenges and things to get used to. I think he will feel him out for a round or two and effectively stop him within about 4 rounds. Martz is one of these guys who, makes it look, halfway credible for a few rounds, takes a little bit of punishment, and then effectively, falls down and quits. Often can be on the canvas after taking a big shot, sort of ruefully sort of shaking his head, and then, it's waved off. So I'm sort of expecting something similar. I don't think it's going to go more than 3 or 4 rounds. I think Martz is going to eat something big, a straight left hand at some point. Down he'll go, and it will be all over. Could be a couple of knockdowns, but this is going to end in a stoppage. The Wilson and Hunter one, for Hunter's sake, hopefully it ends in a stoppage, because obviously if it doesn't, people will be going, you took this fight and you couldn't even get rid of this guy. But returning this weekend, what do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.